here right up at the front of the field, Rob. Piotr Plemiński took it on so hard from the first few strokes. He got that advantage early in the race and he's held it right the way to the final 300 meters.
And when it comes down to the line, especially to the last 800, where everybody is in the lactate nirvana, it's very interesting to see if your style is efficient or if it is not.
Ordinary charge from Emil Nekov from Bulgaria out in lane 4. He's gone past the pole.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the start of the race. And by the way, thank you very much to Andrew Cooper from FISA. I have official FISA permission to do this video analysis. So this is a reaction video to the under 23 men's single scull world championship A final. Let's get started. See how long the German is? This is going to be a long fellow. And then now the camera will quickly pan over to the Polish athlete who's going to take the lead very early. And the reason why I want to put your focus on the Polish athlete is because the way the Polish athlete rows is particularly suitable to create very, very high early speeds, but it is not suitable to have a lot of sustainability of speed. And by this I mean the following thing. It's the start phase, and already what it does is, you see there's a very early upper body rotation around the hip. And he does that right from the catch. Before the legs have engaged fully, the upper body already starts to pivot. And the problem with this is that your leg drive starts to become less efficient than it could be. I consider this to be a technical mistake, and it was not as bad when the equipment was softer. Now that it is very stiff, it is a severe problem. And I think the Polish athlete should be, physiologically speaking, superior to the others, but he doesn't get it into the single. All his power is going to waste in the first part of the drive. The reason why I think so is that the moment you pick up the upper body, you have the agonist and antagonist not in a... The relation of their engagement is not beneficial anymore. So you always need to engage agonist and antagonist. But the question is, do you have more of one side? And I think his antagonist, which is everything around the hamstrings, is over-engaging here. Of course, you go full throttle on your quadriceps and you're trying to create a lot of momentum with your legs. But if you try to open the upper body at the same time, in order to open the upper body, you need to use the hip extension chain, which also is comprised of the hamstrings. If you use the quads on the top side of your legs and the hamstrings on the rear side of your legs, and you overemphasize the hamstrings by the motion of the upper body pivot, what you will end up with is weakening the effect of quadriceps. And this is essentially the reason why the Polish athlete does not get gold, but silver. You can see the different styles already. If you watch the German athlete, Gelsen, you can see he tries not to disturb the boat. So he's got to be a very tall athlete. I haven't looked up his size, but his legs look endless, and he's not even rowing full slide as it appears. For him, it definitely is full slide because he has a long reach. He's also got long arms. So for him, having a long upper body swing is counterproductive. So his technique, in my humble opinion, makes sense. However, if you don't use your upper body at the finish at all, you miss out on effective upper body swing, which propels the boat massively. This is for me like the turbo of everything. And if you compare these two athletes, athlete from Denmark does use a bit of upper body swing. He uses it a bit early, but at the same time, all the way to the finish, the upper body is engaged in an effective angle. So if you rotate the upper body, forward position to backward position, what your upper body does, it describes a radius. So of course, around a center point. The center point is the hip. And if you lean back too much, the shoulder will be more in a downward motion than in a backward motion. And this is when you create that stumpy boat motion we try to avoid. Now, there, however, is a certain range of pivot that is effective. And the athlete from Denmark does it very well. He doesn't lean back too much, although he starts quite early, but hey, this is like a minute into the race, the A final, the World Championships, nerves somewhere. Of course, you're not at the best of your technique capacities. So we have to congratulate all 6 of these athletes. But nevertheless, it is interesting to see how much technique is left when when it counts. This is what we do the technique training all for. So the question is how much of that radius is effective, because here it's not that effective anymore. And if you lean forward too much, you're also more in an upward motion, but it's not very common that you see that issue. The athlete from Denmark does use the upper body along with the arms. Let's see one more stroke cycle. Leg drive. Yeah, there might be an empty seat motion at the catch, so which means leg drive but no hand connection. Yes, I'm aware of this, but still, in terms of force curves, it does create the better force curve. If you have to choose one of the 2 evils, pivot too early or shoot the slides a little, shooting the slides is probably more effective. But by shooting the slides, most people usually refer to slide to the catch too quickly. I mean an empty seat motion at the catch. And now, the athlete from Denmark does use his upper body along with the arms. Now, if you compare this with the German athlete right there, the upper body stops here and the rest is empty arm pull. Leg drive, upper body motion when the legs are actually in a very strong position. I'm not sure if this is not a bit too early, and then he stops and already starts to contract the arms in an empty arm motion towards the body. I think that the German athlete is very, very quick and fast. But if you see the athlete from Denmark and Germany side by side, in my humble opinion, there is a difference. And I don't know if they're physiologically on par or not, but technically speaking, the athlete from Denmark has a style that is more effective. It pays more to use the upper body because the upper body is mass you can use to propel the hands before you have to pull the arms. And especially in the open weight men's single, the boat speed is high. I mean, these guys race around 17 kilometers an hour. That's quick. So you can never really try to keep the momentum going with your arms and try to keep a momentum going that you have built up with your legs, then with the upper body. Then you'd want to try your weakest lever to use to keep the momentum going. For me, it doesn't make sense because our legs are always going to overpower the arms, and it's very likely that our pivot capacity around the hip, if our trunk is somewhat in a collected posture, will always overpower the arms as well. So of course, the arm pull cannot be effective, and I think this is where the German misses out on a medal ultimately, because the athlete from Denmark, you see this leg drive, pretty late upper body, and arms and upper body almost work harmoniously together. You shouldn't use them at the same time, in my opinion. So there's always an overlay. So leg drive, then you add the upper body, and then you add the arms to the upper body. So the time of engagement is certainly not the same. Legs start first. It's like a parallel motion of your upper body, of your trunk. Your arms are still in a loose position. Then you use the mass, and when your mass has had the initial effect of motion, then your arms can be added to the upper body. But I don't think that the arms should have a long solitary pull. And with the athlete from Denmark, there is a bit of a solitary pull, but not a lot. It's mostly to get the blade out of the water and about the disconnection process. So the last 5 centimeters, 1.5 inches or so, you need to reduce force on your blades. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get the blades out of the water cleanly. You may say, okay, the athlete from Denmark might be smaller. Well, then this is an advantage. On the other hand side, there's always enough room to lean back. Now, the second race, the race for the gold medal, was going on right here, although it didn't look like it. Because Nakov, the winner right there, is not much in the picture. He's with the pack, and I like that strategy. You don't have to lead at the 500 to lead at the 2,000 meter mark. 500 meters rowed, and the Polish athlete is in the lead. And if you watch him row, he essentially keeps up his technique throughout most of the first K, and then starts to become a little more effective because he becomes more tired after the first K. So he then starts to use the upper body a little later, not so early. But you see the intention is still there. An aggressive first part of the drive. That position is not effective because his blade also goes deeper into the water as he starts to drive. So this is a pretty long, he needs a long time to connect because his blades go deeper, his upper body, his shoulders go up. So effect and cause are a bit different. Because the shoulders go up, the blades go deeper, but it still takes more time to connect. And this is time where the leg drive does not have its full effect. In addition to the quads being, I think, almost hindered by the work of the upper body pivot, which then involves the hamstrings as the antagonist over proportionally. Good shot. Let's look at Nakov here. Nakov, did you see this bend right there? I've got the screen right in front of me. The oars right here where my cursor is bend pretty massively just before zero. Zero line is where your hands are perfectly overlapping. This is where the blades are, well, in the ideal angle to propel the boat. However, there's always a trade-off. The boat has already collected quite a bit of speed throughout the drive, so you have to have your body well positioned in order to still move the boat. So just having the blades at that position alone is not effective. You need to be able to take advantage of that position. And this is what Nakov does extremely well by having a pretty late upper body pivot, however, not too much. So you see, his finish has a distinguished end. There's a certain end point of it. And that's very, very effective. So there's no endless extension of the finish. On the recovery, it's pretty loose. Leans forward quite a bit. That's interesting. I think quite a round and hunched back. So this hunched back right there may not be healthy in the long run. So I hope he doesn't have early back pain in his career. His blades are pretty far off the water, so there's quite a bit of load on his handles just before the catch. But again, it's a final, so we should relax a bit. And his blades go deep but not endlessly. He's pretty quick to connect. And what Nakov does very well is you see how patient he is with his upper body. His legs are almost done and his arms are still loose and his upper body is just about starting to pivot, and now he's using all that mass. And this is where his oars still bend. And then it's got a collected finish. For me, this is technique-wise a masterpiece to pull off in the A final when everybody's nervous. This is beautiful. Also, he keeps his legs steady and connected with the foot stretchers until his hip rotation is done. I think he could sit a little taller, have his entire trunk a little better connected with the hip. So by this I mean shoulder to hip should be a little better connected. Is not the case. A little more core strength would certainly help, but that's what it is. And that's probably one of the reasons why he's having it. It's a bit tough for him at the first 1,000 to stay with the top leader here, which is the athlete from Poland. But if you just watch him row, long and effective strokes. At the same time, the boat almost never stops to run. So it's a very fluid motion. And his stroke rate is not much lower than anybody else's, but at the same time, the effect per stroke is pretty good. So considering, I know we just saw meters per stroke, but the way he moves the boat, if you put the body motion in relation to the boat motion, that's a pretty good ratio. The interesting thing is that almost halfway through the race, it looks like the athlete from Poland will pull this off. Open water lead, that's about 14 meters lead or so. That's a long stretch to catch up. But the thing is, when I watched this race the first time, I thought, is he going to be able to sustain this pace with this technique? I doubt it. There's no way, unless he's physically superior to anybody else, that with this technique you can sustain that pace. I just don't think that that's possible. And I was surprised to see, okay, I was actually right. And if we fast forward 1,000 meter, still pretty much the pack together. Look, Nakov is in third place here, fourth place actually. So Nakov is 16 meters behind. He's got 3 1/3 of a second to make up in a single. That's still possible, but hey, it's a long stretch, you know. It's not like the pack in the middle is taking it easy. Let's fast forward a little. Now comes the time where the Polish athlete starts to be under pressure by the German. So the German and the athlete from Denmark, the two were matching each other. That was very interesting. I think it was also a psychological component. These two were so busy with each other and with the athlete from Poland that they simply did not pay enough attention to the athlete from Bulgaria. It's a 1250, and now watch what the Bulgarian athlete does. That's a very interesting strategy. You don't see much change in the stroke rate, but you see he stays true to his technique principle, and stroke per stroke, he's trying to get a bit more energy into the drive and then build the stroke rate. So it's like a picture book way to do it. So you want to accelerate the drive and then respond with a quicker recovery. Not the other way around, but trying to bring up the stroke rate by accelerating the recovery and then hopefully have a faster drive. This is not how it works. And also the camera doesn't really pick this up now, because now Neikov starts his attack. He's already here. He's already gone through the athlete from Denmark and from Germany. So he's in second place. And if you fast forward, you see it's, where are we? No, it's still in third here. If we fast forward, now it's all cameras on the athlete from Poland, and then they see what's going on with him. And this is spectacular. He's still true. His technique principle is still true. You see a long drive. Let's go forward a little. It's one of the most exciting races I've seen in a long time. Now, long leg drive, late upper body, collected finish, boom, move on. The German has nothing to respond with, because his upper body is restricted from moving. This is how his muscles are wired. This is his muscle memory. So the athlete from Denmark, every time he uses that upper body, it's like a punch. And of course, he's gonna pull ahead of the German, because the German has nothing to offer for a final sprint, because he's lacking the motion. The athlete from Denmark has. So that's the main difference. If we now see the Bulgarian athlete, Neikov, see how much punch there is at the finish. He simply rode through the athlete from Poland. He was becoming shorter and shorter, and Neikov is not becoming shorter. It's still pretty long. You see, there's almost no finish anymore of the Polish athlete. Neikov wins this in an impressive way. Absolutely impressive. It's said that we don't get better pictures for the last 500 meters, but this is awesome. The way Neikov pulls this off is just fantastic. So intelligent. And you see how much water there is now between the German athlete and the athlete from Denmark. So that's a very, very tight race, and it wasn't decided until the 1500 meter mark. So for me, very interesting to see this and to see that technique does have a pretty massive effect, even with the heavy singles, because in the heavy singles you usually see, with muscle mass you can overpower quite a lot, and technique can be compensated. It's not the case with the absolute elites. So to recap everything, I think you do need a very effective upper body use. There should not be much of a solitary arm pull at the finish. This is what we can take away from that race, and I think it is the most effective thing you can do to have a long leg drive with a stable upper body posture. And the last thing that I always tell my athletes, you don't need to lead at the 500 to lead at the finish line. Now, with this being said, congratulations. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Thank you for an awesome race. And I'm hoping to see you in the next video analysis. All the best to you. Bye-bye.